The global humanitarian organization Action Against Hunger warned of a 700% increase in child malnutrition in Gaza since October 2023. In Venezuela, Caracas residents mobilized in the capital city to express their rejection of Israel's genocidal aggression against the Gaza Strip. And in the U.S., a federal judge in Oregon has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops to Portland, siding with the state officials who argued the move violated constitutional limits on federal power. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The global humanitarian organization Action Against Hunger warned of a 700% increase in child malnutrition in Gaza since October 2023. An analysis presented by the organization showed that since August 2025, Gaza has officially been in the most serious stage of food insecurity. In this context, the organization also denounced that using hunger as a weapon of war is a violation of international law and is contrary to United Nations Security Council Resolution 2417. Since October 2023, Action Against Hunger has supported thousands of people in the Gaza Strip through the distribution of food, drinking water, hygiene products, sanitation services, cash assistance, and also the detection and treatment of malnutrition in children. And 2 years after the beginning of the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian population, health authorities in the Gaza Strip reported that the Zionist regime had killed more than 76,600 people. The authorities informed that more than 67,000 people were killed in Zionist bombings, while almost 10,000 are missing under the rubble since October 7, 2023. Likewise, medical personnel have also been targeted by Tel Aviv military forces, with more than 1,700 healthcare professionals killed to date and another 3,062 illegally detained. 2 years after the Israeli aggression against Gaza, famine reached critical levels with hundreds of deaths from starvation, including 154 children, the most vulnerable sector and hardest hit by the criminal policies of Benjamin Netanyahu's government. In this context, the systematic destruction of civil infrastructure is part of the Zionist offensive against the Gaza Strip. Let's look at the following report.
La ofensiva israelí sobre Gaza ha provocado la destrucción.
The Israeli offensive in Gaza has caused unprecedented destruction of essential civil infrastructure, reducing 70% of buildings in the north of the Strip and 50% in the south to rubble, according to the United Nations data.
Esto según datos de Naciones Unidas. Sistemas de agua potable,
drinking water systems, electricity networks, hospitals, schools, and more than 150,000 homes has been deliberately bombed, creating a catastrophic humanitarian crisis.
Creando una crisis humanitaria catastrófica. La ONU estima que los daños superan los 10.
The UN estimates that the damage exceed 18.5 US billions, while 2.3 million Palestinians face inhuman living conditions without access to basic services after Israel made everything that sustains life in the besieged territory a strategic target.
Todo aquello que sostiene la vida en el territorio sitiado. Entre las infraestructuras.
Among the critical infrastructures destroyed are the 3 main water desalination systems, the 12 power stations, and 35 of the 36 hospitals in Gaza, now totally or partially unable to function.
De Gaza, ahora incapacitados total o parcialmente para funcionar. Esta demolición metódica Incluye
This
carreteras,
methodical demolition includes roads, bridges, farms, and sewage systems, creating an apocalyptic landscape where the diseases such as cholera resurge due to the impossibility of maintaining minimum sanitary conditions.
tener condiciones sanitarias mínimas. Organizaciones de derechos humanos
Human rights organizations document that the destruction exceeded any military justification, constituting collective punishment prohibited by the international humanitarian law, a systematic policy of annihilating infrastructure that not only seeks to make Gaza unbeatable, but also to erase Palestinian memory and presence.
busca borrar la memoria y la presencia palestina.
On Tuesday, Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelhadi reported significant progress in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas, including a security mechanisms to ensure Israel's complete withdrawal, as well as the unconditional entry of humanitarian aid through United Nations channels. The foreign minister added that the negotiations also seek to consolidate a just peace based on the two-state solution and unity between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Abdelhadi reiterated his country's support for Donald Trump's plan for Gaza and highlighted its willingness to organize an international conference for the reconstruction of the enclave. The talks take place in Sharm el-Sheikh and are expected to continue on Tuesday. Hamas has set the end of Israel's aggressions as an essential condition before moving forward with a possible prisoner exchange. And in other information, the Vatican announced that Pope Leo XIV debuted overseas trip will be to Turkey and Lebanon, where he is expected to make appeals for peace across the Middle East. The Pope will visit Turkey between November 27th to the 30th and Lebanon from November 30th until December 2nd. Pope Leo is expected as well to speak about the struggles of Christians across the region and appeal for peace. On Sunday, the Pontiff declared that he hoped a plan to end the immense suffering of the Palestinian people would soon reach the desired results. Leo's role in pushing for peace in Gaza has become more prominent since Israel's strike on Gaza's only Catholic church in July. The Pontiff's trip to Turkey will include a meeting with Patriarch Bartholomew, the spiritual leader of the world's 260 million Orthodox Christians. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, Caracas residents mobilized in the capital city to express their rejection of Israel's genocidal aggression against the Gaza Strip. On Tuesday, social organizations and activists marched through several avenues in Caracas in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. Waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans, protesters demanded an end to the Zionist aggression and the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. This great march for freedom and full sovereignty for Palestine is being held in the second year since the Israeli occupation forces began their attacks against the Palestinian people, which has resulted in a systematic genocide that killed more than 67,000 Palestinians. In this context, Venezuelan President denounced a false flag operation planned by the national far right to justify any aggression by the U.S. imperialism against the national territory. During his television program, Con Maduro Más, the president reported that state security and intelligence agencies are continuing their investigations into those responsible for the false flag operation against the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. In this regard, President Maduro emphasized that the Venezuelan government guarantees the protection of the U.S. Embassy in full compliance with the Geneva Agreement, contrary to Washington's actions against the Venezuelan diplomatic headquarters on U.S. territory. In turn, the Venezuelan head of state reiterated Venezuela's position in defense of its sovereignty and territorial integrity and in the face of any threat or attempt at aggression against the country. And a massive citizen mobilization took place in Caracas under the slogan, "Let's win peace, let's defend life." Hundreds of people took to the streets to express a unified message in defense of national sovereignty and in rejection of any type of foreign interference. Our correspondent Andrea Romero brings us all the details.
En el recorrido desde la parroquia Petare
On the route from the Petare parish to the United Nations headquarters in the Venezuelan capital, participants carried flags and banners referring to peace and self-determination, delivering a clear message to the international community.
A la comunidad internacional. La respuesta de los venezolanos.
The response of the Venezuelan people to imperial threats is emphatic, assuring that the defense of the nation will be total in the face of any attempt at occupation or invasion.
O invasión.
The United States empire is a threat to us. Trump is saying that we are going to be conquered by him, that he is going to come in here, and well, whoever comes in here is not going to leave, because that is how we are going to defend our country.
En la movilización también se
The
promovió.
mobilization also promoted a message that contrasted confrontation with a call for brotherhood and love, as a form of moral resistance in the face of the blockade and international pressure.
Y las presiones internacionales.
Nosotros somos puro amor, amor, amor.
We are pure love, 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 we say to the oligarchs. While you throw blockades at us, you declare war on us, we send you flowers because we are a people of love.
Flores, porque nosotros somos un pueblo de amor.
Venezuela es una nación que
Venezuela is a nation that exercises its right to peace and, at the same time, is a guarantor of its own principles.
We are supporting our country because we need peace. We are a peaceful people, guardians of peace, and we are supporting countries that need support, and we are here marching for peace.
autoridades gubernamentales presentes. en la
Government officials present at the march highlighted the active and organized role of the population in protecting the country.
Estamos precisamente enviando nuestro mensaje.
We are precisely sending our message, which is a message for peace. I believe that our people have been preparing and training themselves, organizing with the armed forces to defend our territory. And today, as a people, as a family, we have also taken to the streets because I believe that our main message is peace.
Principal es la paz.
Con esta demostración de fuerza
With this
popular,
demonstration of popular strength, Venezuela continues its offensive with unity and commitment.
desde Caracas en la Cámara de Marcos da Silva para Telesur, Andrea Romero.
Now we go to Ecuador. President Daniel Noboa dismissed the possibility of engaging in dialogue to discuss the elimination of the diesel subsidy and the reduction of the VAT, while the strikes continue for the 16th day. The Ecuadorian president argued that for decades, the diesel subsidy implied a $1 million tax burden that can now be allocated to other sectors, so he will not back down. In this regard, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities argued that the elimination of the fuel subsidy, among other things, will lead to an increase in the price of basic foodstuffs and has called for a national strike. The organization pointed out that the government was not responding to the social demands of the movement and also denounced attacks on freedom of expression during the protests. And on Monday, the Argentine president, Javier Milei, performed a rock public presentation amid strong tensions between his supporters and detractors and the crisis in his Libertad Avanza party. With just 20 days to go before Argentina's legislative elections, the head of state gave a rock concert at Movistar Arena in Buenos Aires, where 15,000 people were gathered. Moreover, Milei took advantage of the concert to present his book, The Construction of a Miracle, honor figures like Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, Jair Bolsonaro, and support the Israeli government. The president, embroiled in several scandals due to the links between his candidate for legislator, José Luis Espert, and drug trafficking, ended the concert with insults against former President Cristina Fernández. And after this information, we have a second show break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. In the U.S., a federal judge in Oregon has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops to Portland, siding with the state officials who argued the move violated constitutional limits on federal power. Judge Karim Imergut issued a restraining order in response to lawsuits filed by Oregon and California, which claimed the federalization of troops breached the 10th Amendment and federal law. The ruling halts the deployment of personnel from California, Texas, and other states, citing a lack of justification for military intervention in local protest. The restraining order remains in effect until October 18th, pending further review. In this regard, Illinois officials have filed a lawsuit to block President Donald Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago, arguing the move is unconstitutional and politically motivated. Governor J.B. Pritzker, joined by Attorney General Kwame Raoul and Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, condemned the federal action as an abuse of executive power. They asserted that the administration failed to meet the legal requirements for invoking the Insurrection Act and accused it of using force to intimidate peaceful demonstrators. At a press conference, officials described the deployment as part of a broader strategy to create fear and confusion and mischaracterized protesters as violent agitators. They emphasized that no precedent is above the law, adding that the federal response resembled authoritarian tactics rather than democratic governance.
The Trump administration is following a playbook: cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. This didn't happen in some faraway authoritarian regime. It happened right here in Chicago, right here in the United States of America. The reports of excessive use of force against children is unconscionable. And the way many innocent residents who lived in the building were treated is appalling.
And we stay in the United States. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that he is consulting with the Department of Justice regarding a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, the accomplice of pedophile and sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein. This was announced at a press conference in the Oval Office, where Trump confirmed that he would be willing to consider the request for clemency. The families of the victims of the criminal Epstein have categorically rejected the U.S. president's claim, arguing that it would be an injustice to those who suffer from the crimes, and emphasized that granting Maxwell a pardon would more than confirm Trump's complicity with his friend Jeffrey Epstein. In 2021, Maxwell was found guilty of 5 charges, including child trafficking. And now we go to Spain. 4 people are missing and at least 10 more were injured in Madrid on Tuesday when a building partly collapsed during construction work. Local authorities said the incident took place close to the Plaza Mayor, a central square in the Spanish capital. Emergency services added that the injured people were construction workers, one of whom was being treated in hospital for a leg fracture. The site was cordoned off and neighboring buildings were evacuated as emergency teams continue on site to secure the area and find the missing workers. And after this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.